In order to make it comfortable for the astronauts, originally they were going to put us all in one habitation module with sleep stations all around it. But the way a station was eventually built, we have sleep stations inside Node 2, which is in the forward part of the station, and inside the service module, which is in the aft. A total of 6 small bedrooms, sleep stations, or sleep pods. And inside each one is just a sleeping bag tied to the wall. You might think it's uncomfortable not having a mattress and a pillow, but without gravity, of course, you don't need anything to hold you up. You can just completely relax. And you don't even need a pillow. In space, you don't even have to hold your head up. So you can relax every muscle in your body, and your arms float up in front of you. Your head tips forward. But before I go to sleep, I gotta put on my pajamas, because I have space jammies. I'll be right back. Great. I'm in my super comfy Russian full-length pajamas. Nice for when you have to get up in the middle of the night, and ready to go to bed. I'll show you where I sleep. This is my sleep station, my sleep pod. This is where I spend up to 8 hours every day, here on board the space station. It's actually on the floor, but once you're inside, you just can't tell.
The instrument compartment, not accessible to the astronauts, houses the oxygen and propellant tanks, thrusters, the onboard computer, and a number of sensors. From the descent module, the 3 crew members monitor all information about the spacecraft and the ISS from ground data, the onboard computers, and an optical display of the view from a periscope mounted on the outside. For the second orbital transfer and the final rendezvous maneuvers, the astronauts return to their seats in this module. The second orbital transfer brings the Soyouz from the phasing orbit up to the ISS orbit. It's called a bi-elliptic transfer and requires 3 engine burns instead of the Hohmann's 2. From the phasing orbit, the first 2 burns bring the Soyouz up to the ISS orbit. The third burn gets the vehicle traveling at the correct speed to stay in the ISS orbit. The burns of the bi-elliptic transfer are calculated based on the precise altitude of the phasing orbit, and consequently, if the phasing orbit is too high or too low, the Soyouz will not meet up with the ISS as expected. The reason for using a bi-elliptic transfer here instead of the Hohmann's is that the Soyouz will not only reach the correct altitude in the close vicinity of the ISS, but also with exactly the desired speed. Despite these precise maneuvers, what if the thrusters fail to slow down the Soyouz and the vehicle travels too fast as it approaches the ISS? This could end in disaster, with the Soyouz crashing into the station instead of docking. To prevent this from happening, the Soyouz performs an additional side burn. This changes its orbital plane slightly and makes a collision between the 2 vehicles impossible. Throughout the rendezvous process, the Soyouz onboard computer continually determines the position and velocity of the Soyouz itself and of the ISS. To do so, it uses measurements provided by the ground controllers and a radar system called the KERS. In this way, all of the burns during the rendezvous are calculated and automated by the onboard computer.
So Soyouz navigates in space and looks for the station with a special radar system, which is called KURS. This gets turned on at 400 kilometers from the station. It looks, and usually it sees the station and locks into the station at around more or less 180 kilometers. At that distance, we really don't see the station. It's probably, even if you could see, it's probably similar to any of the stars that are up there in space. But you see on the screen the lock, the software indication that the radar locked into the station.
The third and final burn of the pre-mentioned bioelliptic transfer is very important because it sets the vehicle up for its near-ISS rendezvous procedures that will lead to docking.
When you do a normal burn in the space station, well, the vehicle rotates to the correct attitude at 2 degrees per second, and then it takes about 8 minutes to start the burn. When you're close to the space station and you have to brake, of course this would not work. So then the vehicle all of a sudden starts rotating quite fast, 3.5 degrees per second, and only just after that, 50 seconds after that, you already have the burn. And once the burn is completed, immediately the vehicle starts rotating again to the normal orientation. And the crew has to monitor this quite intensely. And these are really high peaks of workload to see that everything is okay, the rotation is going okay, you know that you have the burn values were okay, you rotate back, and then you see back the space station in your main display.
We could see it first a dot, a little bit brighter than the other star in the sky, and then little by little we started to see like a little spider first with all the solar arrays and everything, and then it was apparent that there's a huge outpost was right there in front of us.
During this stage, the crew commander, sitting in the middle, gives vital information and instructions to his crewmates. Their workload has increased. Many parameters need to be checked and systems activated. Days before launch, a team of flight dynamics experts at the mission control centers in Moscow and Houston determine the ideal position and orientation of the ISS, based on a careful analysis of the constraints that could affect these final stages of the rendezvous timeline. First, there must be adequate lighting conditions at the time of docking so that the Soyouz crew can see the ISS without being blinded or blocked by the sun.
It depends if the station is illuminated, it's in the sun, then you can see it even if you are relatively far away, but if the station is not in the sun, then you cannot see it even if you are close.
Additionally, major temperature fluctuations of ISS elements, such as the solar arrays, must be avoided to prevent structural deformation. Finally, there must be clear communication pathways between the ground, Soyouz, and ISS. The rendezvous is a fully automated process performed by the onboard computer. However, the commander still takes the hand controller just in case there is a need to perform a contingency manual docking.
If you don't see the space station or something happens at that moment, then you might have to take manual control. And so you have to remember very well, where is the space station now? What are the actions that I'm going to take? And this is really the intense moments that happen.
Manual docking requires 2 hand controllers to pilot the vehicle, a left one that controls translation and a right one that controls rotation. The crew are thoroughly trained in these manual docking procedures, even training until the very last days before launch in Baikonur. Besides contingency docking, the crew might also utilize their manual control training during redocking maneuvers. The ISS is constantly visited by manned Soyouz vehicles and other unmanned supply ships. Sometimes it's necessary to undock an attached Soyouz and redock it to another port on the ISS to make room for one of these new ships. Luca Parmitano did this as part of Expedition 37.
My crew was one of the few crews able to perform a manual docking, and it went very smoothly. We were excited because it's something that we trained on for a long time, and we were able to do it.
Apart from this case, a routine docking sequence is fully automated, and the crew's main task is to monitor the systems to ensure nominal procedures. At this stage during routine docking, the vehicle's relative speed continues to decrease, as does the distance between the two.
400 meters from the space station, a new phase enters. This is the phase what we call fly around.
During this phase, the vehicle is actually not pointing at the desired docking port, but at either one of the station's KERS antennas. It's only when the vehicle reaches its 150-meter station keeping mode that the orientation changes to point at the selected docking port instead. The Soyouz then performs a second fly-around to line up with the docking port, while keeping a distance of 150 meters. Once aligned with the docking port, the crew issues the command for the last stage, the final approach. The Soyouz computer display uses data from KURS to provide the astronauts with pertinent information about the rendezvous and docking maneuvers. Among other readouts, the distance from the ISS is displayed, here showing 5 meters, as is the relative velocity during the approach, currently 10 centimeters per second. This and other information is overlaid on the video feed, used to track alignment of the target.
5 meters, 0, 1, 2. Target in the center, crosshairs aligned.
By for contact and capture of the International Space Station.
Contact occurs as soon as the probe touches the entrance cone of the docking hatch. Then, the thrusters give the Soyouz an extra push, and the docking mechanism ensures capture.
Accelerations or rotations, standing by for contact. Contact. Mechanical capture.
And contact and capture confirmed.
I think this is where the impact was. So I'd say about 4 to 5 inches off center. It's pretty good after traveling for a couple million miles.
The probe retracts and you get the two vehicles closer to each other, and then when they are very close to each other, less than 2 to 3 millimeters, the hooks start closing. And it's when these hooks are fully closed that can take an enormous pressure, because they can withstand 16 tons of force, each of the hooks, and you have 8 hooks on the Soyouz vehicle.
This is still not enough, because there might be something inside your ring, some dirt, some debris that is not allowing for a good seal. So there is a series of vacuum and depressurizations done in a very astute manner that verifies that each one of these compartments is actually sealed tight. Only at that point, and by the way, all of this takes, I would say, an hour, 1 to 2 hours. Only then, when everything is proved to be fully sealed, only then you can open the hatch of the station, the hatch of the Soyouz, and the crew can actually go into the station.
And what we usually do is we knock on the hatch that goes on the side of the space station. They knock back. We know that there's somebody else on the other side.
And the hatches between the Soyouz spacecraft and the International Space Station opening at 11:14 p.m. Central Time.
Then it's hugs and smiles for everybody.
The astronauts are now safely on board the International Space Station, their home for the next 6 months.
Basi Alexander Guest, asante sana kwa maswali yako ambayo umepata kujibu maswali kutoka katika watazamaji wetu, na bila shaka umepeana majibu mufti kweli kweli kwa takribani maswali 14 ambayo tulikuwa tumekutumia kupitia kwa ujumbe mfupi kwa barua fupi ya email, na umeweza kuyashughulikia yote vilivyo ukayajibu, na bila shaka watazamaji mmepata kufahamu mengi ambayo kutokana na vile mliuliza basi amejaribu kujibu pale Alexander Guest ambaye ni mwenzetu. Mkiwa na maswali mengine bila shaka atarejea tena wakati mwingine na apate kutujuza mengi, atuelezee ili mpate kufahamu na mpate kuerevuka. Iwapo na maoni mtazamaji ama suggestions zote, basi unaweza kutuma ujumbe wako kwa nambari fupi ya 40353. Lakini la muhimu ni kutumia ukurasa wetu wa Facebook ambao ni Tandao TV Kenya, Twitter @Tandao TV Kenya, na ukurasa mwingine ambao ni YouTube ni Tandao TV Kenya, na ukurasa wa YouTube mpya ambao inajulikana kama Dunia ya Tatu. Ukurasa huo mpya wa YouTube unajulikana kama Dunia ya Tatu. Unaweza kulike, kusubscribe na kufollow ili upate kupata video zote katika simu yako ama katika kompyuta yako. Zikiwekwa, zikitoka, basi tutakuwa tunaweka pale, ili kama umekosea hujaona, basi utakuwa unafuata pale unatazama makala yetu. Ni kulike page na kusubscribe. Inajulikana kama Dunia ya Tatu na Robert Wanyonyi. Kwa niaba ya mhariri wa makala haya ambaye ni Bilha Wafula, jina langu ni Robert Wanyonyi, na haya yamekuwa makala ya dunia ya tatu. Na makala ya dunia ya tatu, mtazamaji, yataendelea.
Makala ya dunia ya tatu na Robert Wanyonyi.